Hey there, it's just Anna again today. Paul was unable to make it, but will hopefully be back and in tip-top condition or some version of it by the next interview. And so in the meantime, I'm taking advantage of hanging out with some of my friends. And today on the Classic Gamers Guild podcast, we're heading into the afterlife, but not the slow, peaceful kind. This is Shadows of the Afterland, an upcoming point-and-click adventure from Aruma Studios, the team behind Intruder in Antiquonia. If Intruder was about memory and identity in a town resisting the internet, Shadows is about being dead before you're even born, and trying to rewrite your fate. It's a supernatural mystery about destiny, past lives, and tactical possession. I'm here with Rubén López, one half of Aruma Studios, to talk about designing puzzles, navigating multiple realms, and bringing their custom-built engine to new platforms like Nintendo Switch. We will also get into their biggest engine overhaul to date, the possibility of added voice acting, and to find out if Galician folklore continues to shape their games, from the visuals to the music. If you're into ghost stories, reincarnation mysteries, and small teams building wildly ambitious things, this is a good one. Let's get into it. Hey, Rubén, how's it going?
It's going well. Thank you for having me in the podcast.
So you guys, you are Aruma Studios, and you guys created a studio. Like, where did the name come from, Aruma?
So Aruma is a play on a Galician word, that arume, which means is the ashes that fly away from a bonfire.
Mm-hmm.
So that's arume, and then, so we changed that a little bit and we turned that into Aruma, and it also it's also very similar to another word that means one of the leaves of one tree. So yeah, when we made the logo, we chose the leaf because it was easier to make something interesting with that than with the ashes from the bonfire.
Oh, okay. I like that. That's a good name. And then you guys, so who played games first? Did one of you play games as a kid, or both of you?
Both of us, but I think I played more games than Sylvia, who is the other half of the studio.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually way more into point-and-click adventures, like back in the day, in the 90s and so on. And she was more into more pure puzzle games. She liked more those kind of games. But yeah, both of us did play games back in the day.
Which point-and-clicks did you play?
I mean, all, especially the classics from Lucas, because I couldn't stand the permadeath being in Sierra. So I played, I think, King Quest 5 and some Space Quest, and then I said, no, this is not for me.
Right,
so I played all the Lucas I could find. So I played, of course, Monkey 1, 2, 3. I played Loom. I played, Day of the Tentacle, Maniac Mansion 1. All the stuff I could find.
That's cool. Did you use hint books for them as well? Or did you just play them and figure them out? Like, were you really young? How old were you?
I was young, but I used to play with my father. Like, we would play the games together, and then it was fun because sometimes he got the hints and he found the solutions, and sometimes I did. And that felt like, oh, I'm smart. Oh, I could get this faster than my dad. So it was actually very, very cool to play with him all these games, yeah.
It leveled the playing field because he's probably figured out stuff you couldn't and you figured out stuff that he couldn't. That's a good dynamic. I played games growing up with my dad as well, except it was Sierra. We used to hunt for the deaths together. So we're like, what are all the different ways we could die? And we would just save it and try everything we could to die everywhere in the game. And that was like, I don't know, maybe that's why.
You really liked the deaths. Wow.
I really did. Yeah, I liked those. And I liked the LucasArts games too. I didn't know of any difference between development companies other than LucasArts didn't share a picture of the designer on the back of the game. They just showed gameplay of the game, and the Sierra boxes put pictures of whoever was making the game on the back of the box. So other than that, I thought they all made pretty fun games. Like some of the early Sierra, I couldn't finish without a guide because they're impossible. And the game keeps playing when you're typing. And it was very intricate. But post 1989, it wasn't so bad, I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, so you've already made a game, and that's Intruder in Antiquonia, and at least
Yes.
my very North American way of saying it. And so this one's a bit different because we've gone a bit further into ghosts.
Fun fact about these two games. And the
Yeah.
fun fact is that in Shadows of the Afterland, you have memory issues, and so you don't remember how you got to the afterlife, and there is no internet in the afterlife. So in a way, they are the same story.
Yeah, that's true. We've left all our remembering to the internet, haven't we, too?
So in the beginning, when we started thinking about the second game that we wanted to make, we also wanted to stay in Galicia because there is a lot of, legends and folklore here in Galicia that you can take advantage of when you're coming up with stories. And there was this story, this legend in Galicia. It's called Santa Compañía. It's like the Holy Company, and I think there are games on Steam about that already. And the idea is that there is these ghosts that roam in the forest during the night, and if you meet them, they might actually get you on the queue of ghosts, and the head of the ghost is a little bit special, and so on. And we thought about doing something with that, but something I learned from Intruder in Antiquonia is that you need to have a very powerful hook for all the marketing work to be much easier to do, right? And I couldn't find a very interesting hook based on that idea. I'm sure people can find it, but I couldn't, right? I really struggled to find something. But then we started thinking about ideas around ghosts, and then we started twisting it and turning it around. And then this idea came to mind that, okay, what if you die, you go to the afterlife, but instead of arriving there with your memories, you arrive with the memories of somebody else, right? And then I started playing on that idea, and then, okay, what if we go one step further? And it's not just the memories of somebody else, but it's the memories of somebody else from the future, somebody who hasn't been born yet. And then we kept playing with that, and that's how we got to this hook that is actually catchy, that when we tell it to people, they stop and think, wait, how does that work? Tell me more. And then we knew, okay, we are onto something here. At least when you tell it to people, they stop and want to know more. So then we started developing from that.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. So you sort of landed on that idea, and it was intriguing, and other people are like intrigued by just, we all want to know what if, and that's a great place for things to kind of sprout from too. I like that. Why possession? What's the there's so many ghost tropes out there. I don't think I see much in the way of possession being a mechanic. We played around with it in one part of the Phantom Fellows at one point, but not in the same way that you're doing it, I think, in Shadows of the Afterland.
Yeah, I checked how a few games do it, like the Phantom Fellows, also the Wheel of Arthur, Flavington, the Blackwell series, and even Cats and the Other Lives. But I don't think they play with possession in there. And then I thought, okay, what if we take it like one step further as well, and we make it so that you can possess people when you go to the world of the living and do whatever you want, right? Like, for example, in the one that I remember closely is the Will of Arthur Flavington, because I played it very, very recently. And when you possess, you can actually possess people, but you can only possess a few people, and you can only do one thing while you're possessing them. And say, okay, what if I actually let the player do whatever they want while they're possessing somebody? Now I know what happens, and what happens is the production cost skyrockets.
Yeah, I imagine every time something gets bigger, there's all these extraneous sort of things that end up coming up because of it.
Yeah, because there are things you can do with like 4 different people. They have to figure out interesting things for all of them to say about that, right? And you can, and while you're possessing somebody, you can talk to another person, and depending on who you're possessing, the conversation has to be different as well. So yeah, while I tried to contain the production explosion as much as possible, it did get very, very complex. And I could say that maybe 90% of the bugs I fixed so far, they have to do with possession.
You want it to be something that's original. So what are the different ways that you've kept it that way, like from sort of each one having its own personality?
So the thing is, while you're possessing them, they all have the same personality, the personality of the ghost who is possessing them, the protagonist.
Cool.
But the thing is, when you're talking to other people, they have to react slightly different. Like, for example, there is this scene at the zoo of Madrid, the old zoo, not the current one, where you can there is a family, like a father, a mother, and a daughter, and you can possess either of them and talk to each other. And then when the daughter is talking to the mother has to react in a particular way because it's the daughter. But when daughter, like the father is talking to the mother, she has to react in a different way. It's her husband, not her daughter, right? So they have to talk differently. And wow, that was a lot of work.
That is such a fun puzzle mechanic. Oh, I like that so much. I'm looking forward to the rest. The demo certainly, it was really so well put together and such a tease because you're like, oh man, I want to go into there, but it's not a part of the demo and it ends right when you're just starting to get into it. So, obviously you end up with a buyer right off the bat. Well done. Such a fun game and such witty writing. I was taking screenshots all the way through. I like the backgrounds and the characters just randomly walking by. You've paid attention to so many different details, and I can see the LucasArts love in the game making as well. It's moves you forward and it's simplified, but you're still having to stop and think and figure things out and figure out how everybody and everything relates. So well done on that. Very smooth.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Was okay, so are there ghost stories like Galician? Say the word again for me.
Galician, yeah.
Galician, yes. Ghost stories or myths or like any personal experiences, any of that kind of creep in when you were doing the development, or did you make stuff up all the way from the blue?
No, I was mostly making stuff up, but what I did do is, I have like really way too many characters. Like in our previous game, I had way too little amount of characters, and now, it went just crazy. I think I have 57 or something like that. It's way too many. And so in order to keep them interesting, what I did is, at least for the main characters that have an important role in the game, I was thinking about people I personally know that have a very distinctive personality, so that I could infuse that personality into the characters to make them different. Otherwise, they would all sound like the same person. But in terms of ghost stories, no, I have to make things up as I was going. Yeah. What I did do though is I thought that this was a fun thing to do, and then of course production costs also skyrocket because of that. But I thought it would be fun to be able to ask every single ghost you see in the afterlife, how did they die? And so I did that, and actually added 2 achievements. Like if you manage to ask 50% of them, you get an achievement, and if you ask 100% of them, you get another one. It's really hard because some ghosts you cannot really ask them directly. You have to ask somebody else how they died. So it's tricky. But yeah, of course, that a ton of text that now has to be voiced and it has to be translated and so on.
Yeah, a lot of steps. Did you end up writing the puzzles around the characters, or building the characters to make the puzzles? Like in what order do you do that sort of thing?
That's a very good question, and I do not have a very particular strict structure when I'm writing. What I did is I started writing the plot, and as I was writing the plot, sometimes a clear puzzle would come to mind, and I would say, okay, here's what will happen. And sometimes I knew, okay, this has to be difficult, but I still don't know how. So I would leave a placeholder, in the document, saying, well, add a puzzle here to solve this part, right? And then once I had the full plot written, I would go through all these placeholders and figure out what puzzle would they introduce to solve that particular problem, making sure that the puzzle either moves the plot forward or it tells you something about the world building or the characters. but then, of course, as I was doing that, I had to modify the plot again because some things I did with the puzzles were incompatible with other elements of the plot. So it's this never-ending game of changing the plot, changing the puzzles, and so on.
Right. I picture you with like the bulletin board and you're attaching them with like threads and pin cushions. There's just so many different ways to. I heard that too with Dave Gilbert talking about Old Skies and this with the timelines and things interconnecting between every different plot point. There's a lot of things that end up having to shift a little bit as time goes on and different characters and plot lines are developed.
Yeah, that must be really crazy. Time travel game must be really, really hard to get right. We kept the time travel element to the very, very minimum. It's just, when you arrive there in the afterlife, you have the memories of the future. That's almost as much time travel stuff as you will get, except for the part where maybe or maybe not you will get to change your destiny. But we keep it to a very, very, very minimum to avoid all these kind of problems around timelines and so on. That has to be crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot. Always factoring in different things. And it's a really cool, simplified approach. There's a few things in a room. It's kind of easy to get the gist of what you need to do and where you need to go. The graphics are simplified, but also they look complex. Like it's got this really cartoony element that drew me to it, which is, I felt that way about games in the past. All of a sudden you're playing Day of the Tentacle or something and you're like, holy shit, I am playing a TV cartoon on my TV screen. When my kids were little, we'd have games like Howie Mandel had a adventure game, and it was on a farmland, and it was kind of like playing a Saturday morning cartoon, which is a lot of fun. So, did you ever think that they'd be staying within character, or did you know right away that your ghost would be switching and doing possession at the beginning?
Well, yeah, the possession, I got it already from the beginning because as I was looking through all these references from other games, I did really like the possession mechanic, and I did want to make it bigger. I also thought, okay, when I put my marketing hat, this is actually a very cool thing that might help sell the game. So I wanted to try. I didn't foresee how hard it would be.
Yeah.
But yeah, at least now that it's working, I'm really happy. But yeah, it took a lot of effort to get right. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Okay, so to me, your first game was like rooted in memory and resisting modernity more than anything. Shadows seems more about reincarnation and free will, but it seems like you guys are really drawn to existential themes, like as writers.
Yeah, I guess so. What can I say? When I went to, so we have a newsletter, and when I went to announce the new game to the newsletter, I thought, okay, the funniest way to introduce the new game is to explain it as if it was the same game as Intruder in Antiquonia. A girl who just shows up in a special place with no memory from her own past and with no internet. So I just introduced it the same way to the newsletter people. But yeah, you're right. I kind of get into these kind of existential themes, and for the next game, which we still haven't started thinking deeply about the next game. I know I would like to maybe go into sci-fi a little bit more, and then all the things that pop up in my mind also have all these existential themes to them. So yeah. So if I make a sci-fi game, it's not going to be Star Wars for sure.
No, I was just thinking about the kind of books I like because my mom gets right into fantasy, but I like books that are a little bit of fantasy implanted within reality, just enough to like give you that whole different storyline that reality can't provide, but not enough to turn it into like 50 different stars and a bunch of characters whose names I can't pronounce, and like going off into the fantasy realm in the same way. And it doesn't even mean that you need to stay in the same realm, but like the first Beetlejuice did that pretty good. It kind of had this neat crossover, two different places, and set you up to sort of have a different kind of experience. I like stuff like that.
I actually did rewatch Beetlejuice while I was writing the script, just to get ideas and see where I could take things.
Yeah, that's cool, right? I mean, there's just so many fun things to figure out as you go along the way. Did was there a reason that you wanted to set it where you did in Madrid, like in the 60s? Did that era shape the mystery or the aesthetic in a specific way to you?
It wasn't about aesthetics, it was actually more about world building. The problem is, well, but the problem with the game is that all this afterlife realm is, we have to design it from scratch. Like, there are a few references here and there in TV shows, movies, and so on, but for the most part, I have to make up the rules, how everything works. There is magic in our afterlife. I have to figure out where does it come from, how does it work, what can you do with it, what can't you do with it, right? There is reincarnation, there is another plane of existence on top of the afterlife, how all this stuff works, right? So then, when going to the world of the living, I thought, okay, I'm really, really tired of having to design the entire world of the afterlife already. So please, for the world of the living, I want to, pin it to something real, something that existed, something where I can find tons of information on the internet. And from my family, I have many family members in Madrid, so I can call them and ask them questions about how things work, how did they work back in the day, and so on. So yeah, that's the reason we picked Madrid in the 60s, because I wanted to pin it to actual history and an actual place that exists, so I didn't have to design as much. At least, I can try to make it as realistic as possible, and then only figure out the world design when it touches with the story. Everything else I can draw from what exists already, or existed in this case.
Right. Oh, that's nice though, because you want just enough honesty to have everything make sense, because you are keeping it rooted in the real world, and by putting in that realism, I really like how that all connects together. Then that makes me curious. What world building rules did you invent for the afterlife? Like, how did you decide what bureaucracy would still apply after death?
Oh, so yeah, I need to tread carefully here to not enter into spoiler territory.
Of course.
But the idea is that this is a kind of wonky afterlife. If you already played the demo, so you probably already noticed that the buildings have this kind of broken shape to them. They're a little bit like Day of the Tentacle, but very polygonal, very weird, and in a way, they very angular, The idea is to make it feel like it's a place that is a little bit broken. Right. And so I just thought it would be super fun to add all these, I call them internally ministries, where you can do all sorts of things. Like one is about justice, another one is like the reincarnations ministry. Another one is where the souls arrive when they get to the afterlife. There is another one about creating new souls, which we haven't revealed yet. So this is actually the first time we talk about that one. And I just thought it would be fun to add all these places and have people working there that take their job extremely seriously, to the point that it is a little bit funny that they take their work so seriously. Like, for example, Gregorio, the guy from the Reincarnations office, the Institute of Life Cycles, I think I called it. Already the names of the places are a little bit too exaggerated on purpose, so that people take themselves too seriously. And this Gregorio is super pushy. If you go there for anything, he will try to sell the reincarnation right away. So yeah, that's how we came up with this idea. We wanted this world to feel a little bit broken. I don't want to explain yet why, because it's a bit of a spoiler. Right. But I mean, when I say that there is another higher level of existence, right, another plane of existence, you probably already imagine what's going on here.
Right, because he reminded me of Stan, when Stan's used ships and everything else he tries to sell you along the games. It's like, I'm here and I'm gonna.
He's totally inspired by Stan.
Yeah, I like that. The community in-jokes are great in it, and I mean, it. You know what? Your game is entirely original, and it harkens back to its influences without being an outright Easter egg either. It's just like this little nod within the development, which is respect to where it came from, and I really like how you've woven that all in there.
there is an Easter egg with Gregorio, but it is not about Stan. It's actually about Windows 1.0. But I won't say more. There is a Steam achievement for whoever finds the Easter egg.
Ooh, that's exciting. Okay, I like that kind of joke. That's like a definite in joke. That's perfect.
Yeah, you know this the announcement of Windows 1.0. It was like it felt a bit like these used car salespeople. So it is so weird that I thought, okay, I have to add a reference to that.
Yeah, no, I think so too. I think it was very subtle, but it's just enough that it makes you kind of smile as you're going through and playing it. I like it like that. Is there any lore that you guys have just for yourselves but haven't put in the game, or is everything you've thought of gone right into the game?
No, there is actually lore that we didn't get to put in the game. I wanted to put it all, but I'm super lucky that our lead artist Emilio, he also studied in cinema school, and so he has a very good eye for when I'm just putting too much stuff and telling too many things, and he actually tells me to stop very often and say no, don't put that. It's not needed. It doesn't move the story in any way. Just leave it out. So I have so my game design document is not really a document. It's a folder because I have so much stuff that just one document would be gigantic. So I have one document specifically about the setting, about the world building, and I have 12 pages just about the afterlife and all the rules and all the stuff. And I couldn't tell everything there. Like, for example, in the game, I never explain how the portal in the reincarnations office works. Like, does it get its magic from the same magic as the rest of the world or not? I do have it written in my document, but I didn't find a way to put it in the game, or more than a way, I couldn't find a reason to explain that in the game. So rather than adding free exposition, I decided, okay, I'll leave it out. That's fine.
Okay, so for your first game, you wrote your own engine initially. Is that right, to make the game with?
Yeah, I wrote it already before that because back in 2017, I think it was, we made, I made with some help from my wife as well, but I made this little game. It's just half an hour. It's almost a jam game. And for that game, I actually created the engine. I did that because at the time, Thimbleweed Park was released, and I had been following the development for quite a while because Ron was putting up this blog where he would post about everything he was doing, and he also loves to write his own engines. And I was reading that, and I was really inspired because I like creating technology, and I was so inspired by the blog from Ron that I decided to actually make my own game for that little game. Sorry, my own engine for that little game. Just to learn, and because I thought it was fun, right? And then when we started working on Intruder in Antiquonia, I actually researched all the engines that exist out there: Unity, Unreal, and AGS, and all of them, Visionaire, and so on. And I realized that it would probably take me about the same amount of work to really learn one of these existing engines as modifying mine just enough to make it work for the new game, for Intruder in Antiquonia. So I decided, okay, I'll just do the second part. It seems more fun, and it's going to be about the same amount of work. And that's the reason why we made Intruder with our own engine. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. And so now you've essentially rebuilt the entire engine. Was there a bottleneck in the old version, or what is it that you've gained doing the rewrite?
So the old engine, it wouldn't work in some platforms. I can't explain which platforms it works in and in which platforms it didn't because of NDAs and so on. But it wouldn't work in some platforms, and specifically, it was a bit slow on the Nintendo Switch. Again, I cannot explain technically why, but it wasn't fast enough, and I knew why it wasn't fast enough. I knew I have to do a very significant rewrite, and again, I consider moving to an off-the-shelf engine or modifying mine, and same reasoning, right? I thought, okay, it's going to be a lot more fun to rewrite my engine. It's not really like creating a game from scratch, because the engine is already there. I just needed to change a few things. It was still maybe 2 or 3 months of work, full-time work, but yeah, it would be about the same to just learn another engine well enough that it would be as productive as I am with my own engine. So I decided to go that path. And now the engine is working fine in all the platforms I want to support, including Switch. It's fast enough on the Switch. And I have the game working in all platforms. Releasing on the Switch, I'm not sure I will be able to do it at the same time as PC, because it takes a lot more steps. But at least I know that the game is working there, and it's working fine.
Wow. Okay, that's pretty cool then. Did the working with the possession mechanic, did it affect your scripting, or like when you have inventory logic spread across characters, was that something that you had to deal with?
Oh yeah, I have, I think, 6 or 7 different inventories, and I need to be switching between them when you possess somebody and then exit the body, and then possess somebody else and then exit the body. And yeah, many of the bugs I had to fix during development, they had to do with the inventories, actually. So most of them were due to possession, and a big chunk of them were due to all these inventories that you have to keep. So you have to make sure that it never happens that you are possessing a person but having the inventory of another one, because that doesn't work. And yeah, way too many bugs. But thankfully now it's all behind and it's working solidly. Yeah.
Good. Yeah, it's amazing how something like that, just to smooth it out for a minute, can take a long time to find exactly where the problem is, how to improve it, and how to make it consistent across gameplay. It's a lot to think about.
And I have some items that can be in many different inventories as well. Like, for example, in that scene I mentioned in the zoo, where you can possess the entire family, they can give things to each other. So I have to move them between inventories and make sure that one thing is not in 2 inventories at the same time, because they gave it to one another.
Oh, that's tricky too. Yeah, it's kind of like I was thinking about games where you switch between characters, even more like modern. Mm-hmm. You've played Thimbleweed Park, I'm assuming too. Yeah, exactly. I like that. I like that kind of puzzle too. It adds a whole nother dimension to things. And you've taken what would be a consistent puzzle across a whole game, and it's divided into little sections where they're almost their own little, mini games, but they also cross-reference each other. So that's a lot to think about. I think it's super cool. And now I hear that you've confirmed full voice acting is in development. Why did you decide to take that leap after skipping it with Intruder?
So I always wanted to have voice acting in my games. Also, I always wanted to have pixel art in my games, but the problem is, in both cases, both pixel art and voice acting are very expensive. Pixel art is more expensive than the kind of art we had in Intruder in Antiquonia, especially with the animation, because Intruder was using bone animation, so you don't need to paint manually every single frame. Mm-hmm. And well, Shadows, it's pixel art. You have to paint every single frame. There is no way around that. You guys know it very well. And so yeah, for voice acting, it was the same reasoning. We wanted to have it in Intruder, but we couldn't. We just couldn't pay for it. And for Shadows, we almost couldn't pay for it as well. But luckily, we got a public grant this year that actually covers the cost of the voiceover. So yeah, that's why we are finally doing it. And right now, the voice director, I haven't announced who he is yet, so I need to be careful. The voice director is already doing the casting.
Nice.
And hopefully in beginning of September, we will start recording the lines.
Beautiful. Oh, that's so great that you're working with somebody that's experienced in voice acting and things like that as well, it sounds like.
Yeah, the thing is, I didn't want to ruin all the hard work that Emilio, our pixel artist, is putting into the game by having something directed by myself. Right. Because even if the actors are good, if the director is not good, I'm not sure I will be able to deliver a good enough experience. So since we got the grant and we can afford to have the director, I decided to get the full package.
Congratulations. Oh, that's
Thank you.
exciting. Yeah, now talk to me about the music. Did your composer write specific motifs for every ghost or every realm? And who is your composer?
Yeah, so our composer is Juan Ramón Salgueiro. He's
Ooh.
from Galicia. He was the
Hmm.
same composer who did the soundtrack for Intruder in Antiquonia.
Right.
Although, yeah, the style of music is very, very different. Thankfully, he can adapt very well to different styles. And for Intruder, we actually wanted a soundtrack that made you feel like you're in Galicia, that was rooted in, instruments and melodies that remind you of Galicia. There is a very particular type of music in Galicia. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know how to name that in English, actually.
Oh, you can say it. You can say it in Spanish.
uh, Thinking. Um, no, I don't know. So, Muiñeira is the name in
Ooh.
Spanish or Galician.
Hmm.
And so we wanted to have hints of that style of music in the soundtrack of Intruder in Antiquonia. And he actually managed to add that in. So for Shadows of the Afterland, we went in a very different direction. He first designed all the music for the afterlife. He created the leitmotif that then you can hear when you're moving through all the different scenes. And now, as we are talking, he's actually designing the leitmotif for when you are in the world of the living, because we want, if you see the screenshots, you see that the visual style is very distinctive between the world of the living and the afterlife. We did that on purpose, right? We want the world of the living to look like you are actually in Madrid. We didn't want these wonky buildings with angled walls and so on. And for the music, we are doing the same. We want the music to be very distinctive, so it helps you understand that you are in a different realm. But the challenge is to do that and at the same time feel like you're in the same game. So now Juan is actually working on that as we speak.
Ooh, okay. Well, that's going to be amazing. Yeah, I'm excited for that too. I always the music is what brings a game to life as well. So it's really nice when you find somebody that you are on the same level with that can see your vision and represent it auditorily, because that's quite a skill too, to convert images and words into music.
Yeah, and actually Juan is he's also a music professor, and that's super helpful because he's very used to talking to people who are not musicians and who don't know, all the terms for musical soundtracks and so on. So it's very, very easy for me to communicate with him, explain what I want, without me being an expert in music myself.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's super cool. So I'm curious, having been a person that's worked with my husband over time on businesses and things, how do you and your partner split the work? Like when you're thinking maybe creatively or logistically, and where do you guys draw the line between work mode and home mode?
Oh, yeah. So we actually have a very strict schedule, right? We also have kids, two kids, and we have the kids at home in the afternoon after school. So we just have a very strict schedule where we both work together in the morning, and then we split the afternoons. So there is always somebody with the kids, and yeah, we try to only have conversations about work during the mornings when we are both working, not in the afternoons. And yeah, other than that, I mean, there's always some spillover. Like for example, some afternoon I end up working and something exciting happened, and I cannot help, right? I go there and tell Sylvia about it. But yeah, I try to minimize that and don't do that very often, so that we can have a mostly clean split between work and life.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty cool. You guys do work well together. Your weekly newsletter is kind of like a dev journal. It's not like you're just shooting promos at me. Has that helped you connect with the audience more? Has that been beneficial, do you think, to you?
Yeah, I mean, from a pure marketing perspective, it's not hugely beneficial. I have to be honest there, but it is beneficial from my, I don't know how to say it, but maybe my peace of mind, right? Because I feel like I'm working with other people when I do this, right? And first, it keeps me honest because every other week I have to go through, okay, what did I do these 2 weeks? Okay, all right, I did this and that. All right, I'm gonna tell them, right? And then if I slack off for a week, then I know I will have to write a newsletter and I won't have much stuff to tell people. So I will feel bad. So in a way, it's like, yeah, having, teammates that keep you honest and that keep you from procrastinating too much and so on. So I think that's the main value for me. Although it is true that it is a small newsletter. We don't have a lot of subscribers, but whenever we ask our subscribers for help, they always help us. Like whatever it is, adding the game to the wish list, or asking them questions. What do you prefer, this or that screenshot, or what should we name these characters? Because we have these three ideas. We don't know which one is cooler. They always help us with those things. Even when we do the playtests, we always do the playtests over a video conference so that we can see people as they play. We can see their face, how they react to the game, and so on. And that's super useful. Like I take tons of notes from things that they don't actually say, but I can see myself that some things are confusing or are misunderstood or so on. And these people come from the newsletter as well. It's people who want to help us, like generally, and that's super, super great.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, I really like that connection. That's a great way to not only have a newsletter, but to make it so that people feel personally invested in what happens and it connects them to what's going on. And then they're curious to read it because they want to be helpful. So you've created your own community this way.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's a little community that we have there, and that makes us not be so lonely because, indie game dev is pretty lonely at times. So just by doing this, I actually feel less lonely.
I like that. Hey, okay, is there ever something that after you made the first game, you swore you'd never do again, but it turns out you kind of have to, or is everything totally refreshed?
Yeah, well, not that we kind of have to, but mistakes that we keep making again because we are human. So in the first game, something that happened is that whenever we were done with the script, like that very day that we were done with the script, we started looking for artists. And that was a huge mistake because looking for artists takes a long time. So then we had a gap between being done with the script and having artists to start working. And I said, okay, this is not going to happen ever again. And it happened again with Shadows of the Afterland. It wasn't so... it wasn't as bad as with Intruder because we did start looking for artists earlier. But what we didn't foresee is that finding generalists is hard, but finding pixel artists is way harder because there are much fewer of them, and because there are fewer, most of them are super busy with work, so it's really, really hard to find people who is available to give you a hand in pixel art. So it took us a long time anyway.
Yeah, sounds like, well, you learn like from having your own business, you learn from the past, but you have to continue to learn into the future so that, you can continue to move ahead and upgrade, much like the companies and the games that we've been playing as they've, the ones that still exist anyways, are moving ahead and upgrading and changing game mechanics. But I'm curious, is there an outdated game mechanic that you'll always defend?
Not a game mechanic, but there is this thing, the hotspot highlighter, that I know is very controversial. Some developers hate it very much because, well, it takes away from the exploration, right? If you have a hotspot highlighter and you activate it, you go straight to the things that highlight, right? And you ignore everything else. And then artists put so much effort into adding detail everywhere, and then you ignore it. So some developers really, really hate the hotspot highlighter. And I defend it. I actually defend it because I sometimes I do use it myself, and not only because some games might have some puzzle that isn't super well designed, and maybe you miss some hotspot or whatever. Sometimes I'm stuck for a while because maybe I'm tired or because I can't really focus because there is problems with family or kids or whatever, and then And then actually I am a bit lazier and I go and use the hotspot highlighter if it's available. And that's why I also put it in my games. And I am well aware that, yeah, this takes away from the exploration for some players. But yeah, because I use it myself when I'm tired or have lack of focus, I cannot take it away from my players. So I have it there and I will defend it.
Right.
In fact, there is a small Easter egg in the game about hotspot highlighters as well.
Haha, that's perfect. Right. And you have to use the hotspot highlighter to find it probably, eh?
No. It's just there is one ghost whose death is somehow related to this controversy around hotspot highlighters.
Ooh. Oh, that's super fun. Is there a character in the game that you kind of secretly relate to? Like, are any based on any part of your personality?
Not me, not myself. I tend to think that I am not that interesting myself, so I base all my characters in other people that I find way more interesting than me.
Right. So mostly, like you say, family members or people that you've met in life or maybe seen somewhere, something.
Totally.
Yeah, okay, that's kind of cool. All right, well, Shadows of the Afterland is available on Steam, and you're totally going to go out there and wishlist it after hearing this. You're going to see the graphics, and if you haven't already heard of it, and I'm guessing, like, your first game did really well. I bet most of our listeners have heard of your studio, and maybe were wondering what you guys were up to. So the demo was just updated, I think, wasn't it in July?
You got me there. I don't remember exactly when I updated it, but yeah, when we changed the engine to support like smoothly Nintendo Switch, I did an update also on Steam, so people would get all the goodness that we added on the engine as well. Because we didn't just rewrite the engine to get more speed, we added a bunch of features, like for example, if you click and hold the button down, the character will keep walking. I got that idea from Thimbleweed Park, which does the same thing. So that went into that update as well. And there are a bunch of other, these small quality of life improvements to the engine that went into that update as well.
Cool. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to pitch? Games other things that you're working on, projects?
Not really. We are putting all of our effort into Shadows of the Afterland at the moment. There is, of course, Intruder in Antiquonia, which, as you said, it did much better than we anticipated. We weren't expecting to even recover the external costs, the money we have to pay to people. And it did recover that. So that was already surprising to us. So it did pretty well. And of course, every sale of that game, it contributes to making the new game. So if anybody wants to support us economically, that's the best way. Getting the previous game will fund the next one. And yeah, other than that, have Shadows of the Afterland in your wish list. Tell everybody about it. And that's the best you can do to help us.
Perfect. Cool. Oh, thank you so much for coming on the show. I've been wanting to talk to you for a long time because, as I said, your game is it's so precious. Download the demo if you have like 30 minutes to give it a try. It doesn't take that long. It's beautiful. There's so many cool scenes and places that you want to get excited to go into as well. So it's definitely worth checking out.
Well, thank you, Anna, for having me on the show. That was super fun and I had a really good time.
So I just want to give a huge welcome and thank you for our newest Patreon supporter, Sean Parker. Sean, you're officially part of it now. Thanks for jumping in and helping to keep this whole thing going. Also, a special shout out to our True Believer tier. These folks are the backbone of the show month after month. Gareth, Mick, Brian, Chapman, Christopher, Yanis, and Tim. And thank you all for being in the True Believer tier and for keeping the lights on here at the Classic Gamers Guild. I definitely couldn't do it without you. Say hi to us online. You can find us on Twitter at CGG Podcast. You can find Paul at the Phantom Fellows. We're also on Blue Sky and Mastodon. And don't forget to check out thephantomfellows.com for more about the game. Send us your words, email anytime, mail at cggpodcast.com. If you'd like to support the show, you can be part of the Patreon at patreon.com/classicgamersguild. Join the conversation on our Facebook page or in the Classic Gamers Guild Facebook group. We're also on Instagram and we're on YouTube. Just search for the Classic Gamers Guild. Thanks a lot for listening and definitely don't do a murder.
What if death was just the beginning of an extraordinary journey? Learn to cross between worlds and take control of the living to find out why you remember the future.